Of Mount Hood. That is pretty amazing. We get to play around with some pretty cool cameras here, and I just want to pull it up when I can. But talking about Mount Hood, because we're talking about something just beyond that as well. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. We live stream here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific, bringing you interviews, segments, deeper dives, breaking news, all kinds of things for this show. And we are live streaming on our social media channels, on our website, and our apps. So lots of places to find it, just so you know next time that you join us. And right now, though, we're going to be talking about Kah-Nee-Ta, the resort on Warm Springs. It's over there on the other side of Mount Hood from where we are here in Beaverton, depending on where you're watching from. And Kah-Nee-Ta, a historical really resort there, and there is a planned reopening coming up. We've received some construction updates on that, but we want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on this, find out more about the resort, find out more about what the plans are. And to do so, I've got Jim joining us right now, CEO of the Warm Springs Economic Development and Kah-Nee-Ta Resort. And Jim, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Greg. I appreciate it very much.
And I've been to Kah-Nee-Ta back when it was open before. Always loved that place, and I think it's to give everybody a little bit of the educational background. Can you just talk to us about the resort and the history of it?
Yeah, sure. I can give you kind of a snapshot. It's quite frequently asked. So, Kah-Nee-Ta has been a recognized hot springs that was used by the tribes for hundreds of years. Actually, the name Kah-Nee-Ta comes from the lady that was owner of the property. It means root digger in one of the native languages, and we took an English version of the name and named it Kah-Nee-Ta. And so it's always been a part of the tribal culture, but in 1962, the resort started. It was a really small scale at that point. In 1964, there was a major flood in Oregon. That required in 1965 for the resort to be rebuilt, if you will. And when that happened, the Kah-Nee-Ta that you may have seen, and most people have seen, with the three large pools with the bears along a wall, and the pool was really the foundational piece of it, was built back in 64, 65 timeframe. And that's when Kah-Nee-Ta hit I'd say a broader market exposure, and most people that have connections to it. I can't tell you how many tens of thousands of people we've had that are just excited that it's coming back through the various social media. It's just really humbling and exciting all at once to see we're bringing something back that the Pacific Northwest, as well as the world, is really found this place to be quite a unique place. So the hot springs was always there. It was brought out to the community, if you will, through the resort. Had a few changes. Again, in 95, 96, there was two 100-year floods back to back. And that demolished most of the resort. There was a restaurant at that time along the river. It took it out. It took out all the lodging, and so in '96 it had to be rebuilt. The pool structure itself was there, wasn't functional at the point. So they built a pool within a pool that looked very similar to the pool that most people had experienced before. The buildings, the little red roofs in my backdrop, those buildings were built in '96. So it went from these little cottages and a few teepees to the structures that you see today, and where the teepees and the RV spots location. That was in '96. Since '96, the resort has, again, been successful. The tribe added a larger portion of the resort. They called it the lodge, and then a golf course. So that was the total resort. Part of the history was in 2018, the tribe had to make an extremely difficult decision and close the resort. Their casino had started at the larger property. It made sense to move the casino closer to Highway 26. And in that transition, it just put more pressure on the resort itself. And the tribe was at a point where the collective pieces of the property couldn't sustain themselves. So it was a very difficult decision. So in September of 2018, it was closed, all of the resort. So for up until we started work on the project, it sat in that state. Um, there was several opportunities, people looking at things. I wasn't around at the time. I came back to the reservation, to the tribe in 2020 of April. And there were a couple of things that were being looked at, but nothing firm. One project that I guess, like the rest of them, just didn't come to fruition. And so I asked the leadership at that time if I could bring a proposal forward through the Economic Development Group by partnering with Ski Bowl. And so that started a process, took us about a year, multiple presentations, multiple iterations of what we wanted to do, and getting the tribe to make a significant investment. I mean, the tribe is still economically challenged in a lot of ways, and so making an investment like this, they allocated the initial phase was $6 million, 4.5 for the development of the resort that you're looking at, and then another 1.5 million to revitalize the wastewater system that supports the resort, and there's some community in the area. So that started last year. I guess it was March of 2022, with the intent of opening.
Oh, continue. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, with the intent of opening this year. We were hoping to open in the summer of 2023. I don't know if you're familiar with construction, but there's a term called design build. And that's when you decide to take on a project where on an existing infrastructure or building, you really don't get the chance to go through the project with a fine-tooth comb. And in this case, engineering resources, the cost to do a full assessment, and then go out and bid someone, say, this is exactly what we need to do to bring it back. Rather, you bring in some people, which we did, some experts, and say, just walk around, look at it, see what you see, and what do you think, and what is it going to take? We put that budget together. But we knew, as with anything, you're likely going to run into stuff that you don't count on. In this case, unfortunately, we ran into almost $2.9 million worth of infrastructure and security issues that we had to address that were significant. And so that took away from our construction and project improvements. So we kind of had to hit a pause, started slowing down in May of this year, knowing what we were doing and seeking other sources. So bring it back to the tribe was gracious enough to hear us out. We found a bank that was a Native American bank. I'd give them a shout out. It's the Native American Bank of Colorado. Was really to finance the $3 million that we needed. It was a commercial terms. Financing things on a reservation is very unique. And so when we wrapped that up and presented it to tribal leadership, they said, well, maybe we should consider financing the rest of it. So we went through another couple iterations of proposals, and again, the tribe stepped up and offered this time some financing, $3 million. We wrapped that up in October, so we received those funds in November, and we're now back on the project where we have a very firm idea of what we know. We've been on the property, so now we feel more comfortable. We know what we need to do, such that we just started this latest announcement to the public that we're shooting for a schedule of opening in this summer of 2024.
That's great. I mean, yeah, it's any kind of construction project like that, especially of that size, you're going to run into things, that certainly can happen and change those timeframes. But it's good to hear that you're back on track then for this summer. A couple of things I wanted to ask you about, just things that you mentioned. Kah-Nee-Ta in that area has had some of those floods that have happened before, and naturally there's fires that happen every summer. That's all over the place. What are some of the things that you've done to try to mitigate some of those concerns and risks with this new iteration of the resort?
Yeah, so as it relates to the flooding, that was really resolved in '96. there was a major project that enhanced the retaining wall, if you will, along the riverfront. So if you look to my, I guess it's right shoulder here, I'm kind of pointing at right about here. There's a sidewalk. All that river rock going along there, that was about a 20-foot wall that was put in place. And on top of it, reinforcements for flood control. So that was completed to protect the property from a significant event again. As far as wildfires and that type of thing, the property's in a unique area. It's been grassed, and there's not a lot of timber around it. And we have a fire management resources on the reservation. So, we didn't have to enhance that any. We just had those capabilities already exist in regards to on the reservation.
Nice. So that makes a lot of sense then. Looking at it from, tying into the region, you mentioned you're partnering with Ski Bowl, and then you do have the casino over there, which is kind of right off 26, I guess. So looking at this as a whole, as a region, how do you anticipate Kah-Nee-Ta tying into just that economic area there between Mount Hood and the other side of it?
Well, yeah, it just makes sense. And, I'll kind of give a little comment on, the rationale and reasoning of why we picked Ski Bowl. Kurt Hanna, the owner of Ski Bowl, I think now owns and operates a holding group of some 30 groups, 30 companies or entities. When he started, it was just one chairlift at Ski Bowl that he took out of basically for back taxes. And it was broken and not doing anything. In 30 years, he turned that round to a fully functional resort and expanded the resort, expanded the season, turned the season to winter and summer through the summer activities that they have now. And it took 30 years. So they understand what it takes to bring something, I'd say, kind of reimagine it and develop it for the next 30 years, and understand it's seasonal. The resort, prior to what we think we're doing, the resort was a summer activity. People showed up in the summer. We did probably 75% of the business during 6 months. So how do we address that? Well, I'll talk about the hot springs and how we're doing things differently. But they had those, that was a lot of the insight that they had and were able to bring to the table outside of operating a large resort, if you will, and understanding the economies of how you work with other groups to enhance not only your property, but theirs. So, skiers ski. Well, they're an hour drive now from the ski mountain to a hot springs resort. So even during the winter, we think we're going to be, that's going to be a way we enhance that, what normally you'd think of as off season, and different activities. They employ a large number of tribal members on the mountain. So now they can direct those tribal members that want to work full time, kind of on a summer, winter kind of activity. So there's some really good things that are beneficial for us, and they recognize this, how you create this ecosystem, if you will, for the tourist. The casino is only 8 miles away. So we're already talking to them and how we can partner. What can we do? Because at the end of the day, we want people to come to the reservation or experience the reservation and get full benefit of everything that's there. So we're starting those discussions. And then again, as it relates to Ski Bowl, they bought a property that is on Round Butte Lake, or Pelton Lake, I'm sorry, which is just it borders the reservation about on a drive. It's about 4 miles once you get off the reservation, across the Souers. It's called Tustus Resort. It's an RV park. Now they privately own it on Pelton Lake, and they've renovated that and they've turned that around. So they even have a closer touch now on one of their tourist activities. So again, that's what we're doing. We're working with Central Oregon Travel Oregon to understand how we can help fit into the greater context. So it's part of making sure that we leverage all the other, I'd call tourism type activities. And of course, the the idea and opportunity to allow the people that are visiting. We heard it. They came. People have come for this fun in the sun, the warm recreational pool, but they also came to make a connection with the people and the culture. And so we think that's a big part of what we do, and we bring that as an opportunity. But 30 years ago, the tribe built a one of the first full scale museums right across the street from the casino. So again, another piece of the ecosystem that we're all talking together to make sure that we leverage that.
Well, and I think that's really great, tying everything in together. And speaking to that end, what are some of the things that you're going to be adding to the resort or utilizing to really take advantage of the natural terrain that's around Kah-Nee-Ta?
Yeah, so there's a lot of activities that they've had: mountain biking, trail. I think there's 30 miles of trails, horseback riding. We just have to find the vendor that's willing to kind of come in and put that together. Um, the resort has some normal, I call resort activities in regards to for the younger ones, a putt putt and some other stuff, playground, those kinds of things. But some of the things that we're adding to that, one is the use of the pool, just how the hot springs water is being. We're providing access to that. That's a significant activity that I'll talk about. The river, again, off my shoulder, we're going to have a 3-mile river float with tubes, so people can have fun with that. It's an area has been used before in a similar activity. So there's things to do while you're there. Experience the resort, but also experience the culture. Again, it's just that connection to the culture, and we're going to bring that a little forward more, hopefully. But the main enhancement that we really focused on was making this a hot springs destination. It was the Kah-Nee-Ta Resort and Spa. We've changed it. It's now Kah-Nee-Ta Hot Springs Resort. So the little building, if I can move here, I could show you. There's a little, I got to figure out which way I move. This little building right there that opened up. It's right below my elbow here, right? Let's see right there. That is actually the hot springs. So that's where the hot springs water comes out and is used by the pool and the resort. So what we're doing for the first time is we're creating a third of the pool area is now going to be dedicated 100% hot spring soaking. So this is just full natural hot spring soaking. It never existed. You would have to go to one of the spa, and you could soak in an area, if you will, or a few tubs, and that was your chance to really get a hot springs experience. A third of the pool now is going to be dedicated to that, ADA compliant. Three different pools, one large soaking area they're different temperatures. You can go from 92 to 94 all the way up to 102. So now my opinion, it'll be the largest pool resort-like destination where you can get hot spring soaking.
Go
in
ahead.
addition to that, if you see again along the river to my shoulder, it looks like the little sidewalk there has a few little buildings or something setting on the sidewalk along that river walk. Those are actually 20 semi-private hot spring soaking tubs. You can put 6 people in them. Those will be semi-private, cabana cover. You're actually looking over the river. You can control the temperature. So the natural hot springs comes off. You can cool it with water, get it to your right temperature. And we move those down the sidewalk a little further, closer to the pool. It's a better view of the river. But again, so now you have this, I'll call smaller, more intimate soaking experience over the river. That's again hot springs, as well as the large pool hot springs. The 2 other pools are going to be recreational fun for people that want to come out and just enjoy a recreational pool.
Well, Jim, it sounds like pretty amazing developments there. Pretty interesting seeing how you're utilizing all of that and learning more about it. I just realized what time it was, but I want to say thank you very much for joining me to talk about this. And so you said you're looking at summer of 2024, just to reiterate for everybody. And I also want to let them know where or maybe you can let them know where they can go to find out more information and follow along with the construction.
Sure. Yeah, appreciate that. And I can get long-winded talking about this. It's
So
pretty
it's all good.
pretty important to me. I grew up there. I grew up on the reservation, and this was a playground for me, and it's just so neat to bring it back. Um, Kah-Nee-Ta.com. So www.Kah-Nee-Ta.com is our website. There was more information there. We did have a paver. We have a paver program. We're actually now selling pavers that you can memorialize your part of the resort by putting I think 3 lines on a brick and become a part of the effort as well. So pretty exciting. Again, yes, it's summer, and we're looking forward to it. Welcome the opportunity to let people know what we're doing. They can find more information out on the website.
Fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you very much for joining me and talking about this and sharing your information. It's obviously a pretty exciting development, and going to be a pretty big thing for that entire area and for Warm Springs and for the tribe and just Oregon travel as a whole. So thank you very much for joining us here today. Really appreciate it, Jim.
Thank you, Greg. My pleasure, and have a great day and happy holidays.
Yep, same to you. All right. So then there we go for everybody who's joining in. This is the conversation we get to have. We can go longer than you can see on a normal news show and just kind of really break down some of this stuff. So that's part of the advantage of the live streaming. I do have to get going though, because coming up at 1:30 p.m. we have Eric G from Around the House Northwest. He's going to be joining us to talk about some energy saving tips for your home for the holidays. It's getting colder. This is a good idea for everybody to take a look at this. Energy costs are going up. So Eric is going to be joining us for that here in just a couple of minutes. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, you'll see this video end. If you're watching on the website and the apps, that's a great way to watch, by the way. Just download the app, Fox 12 Oregon. You'll see us continue on, and we'll ramp up here in just a couple of minutes. I had to look at my clock. Just a couple of minutes, we'll have Eric joining us. So I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.